All right, gorgeous souls, welcome back to my podcast. Hannah May here. I want to talk about something that is the thing that people really want more of, and it can feel a little shrouded or veiled, or sometimes we don't know how to get it, or sometimes we pretend to have it and it doesn't feel real or it's not lasting, and that is confidence, joy. And I want to talk about uncovering our innate brilliance because what I have come to understand, know, and believe is actually not what the internet will tell you and not what a lot of these popular self-help gurus will tell you. And I get it, they're selling a message and they're making millions. And I also understand that a lot of people sometimes like a partial solution when it's the surface part of the solution. So what they're saying is not wrong. It's that confidence is not something you're born with. It's a skill that you build. And that's just not true. From a spiritual perspective, it's just not true. And I know that because all you have to do is look at a child. And nobody told them to be happy or not question themselves. The only thing that happens that breaks down their confidence and their self-esteem and their wonder and their belief, their like endless belief, I'm going to cry already, is when somebody tells them that they're not those things and they inform them otherwise. That is when the child questions. So confidence is something that when we come in, it is vulnerable because we're a blank slate as a child and our membrane is thin and all the things that we're needing to learn haven't been pressed in and conditioned yet. So it can either be nurtured or it can be broken and we can forget it. So confidence is not something that we have to find outside of ourselves. It's already there. It has to be remembered. And then, yes, there is that practical piece, which is largely what is being talked about of like skill building and showing up for ourselves and all that. But I think it's really, really important to recognize and understand that it's already within us. And there's certain things that we can do to reconnect with it. And that's the thing that's going to make all the difference and really connect us, give us this lifeline to this truth of our natural innate essence at the center of our beings. So I don't know if you've ever had anyone say to you, just be yourself. People used to say that to me when I was younger, and I would be completely mystified by this. I'd be like, what in the actual fuck are you talking about? Just be myself. First of all, if I knew who that was, I would be being it already. Okay, the issue is that I'm lost and disconnected and cut off from myself, and I don't know how to do that. And I didn't know how to get anchored. I wasn't anchored within myself and I didn't know how to find it. So somebody saying just be yourself was not helpful to me, although they had the best of intentions. But I just remember being like, yeah, well, could you hand me that, please? Could you give me something tangible that I could like somehow apply? And there wasn't a way to do it because it's the inner journey is what I came to understand, right? It's coming to know ourselves. It's becoming reacquainted with the truth of who we are, which is what we're all called to do, I believe, to reconnect with the truth of who we are. Because when we do that, it eliminates basically like almost all of our problems. Actually, I think it eliminates all of our problems. And then the things that are left, we begin to see that aren't problems. We begin to see that they're gifts. And I know that might sound a little out there if you're struggling with something that feels intolerable, and I understand that. And there's a path of acceptance into that sometimes, but there's so much purification and reward in taking that journey because we really can get to a place of peace. Not to divert, but there's these things and these sayings and phrases, like there's a really popular one that I don't know if this sprung out of 12 step. It's made its way well into the mainstream. There's this really popular saying, fake it till you make it, which, okay, I guess I sort of understand that. But as a concept and as a actual approach for sustainable results, like, no. Sorry, it doesn't work. It just doesn't. You can't pretend your way into something. That's dishonest. You have to believe your way into it. It's a bypass. to say fake it. I understand the concept, okay? Like I understand like the if said in a lighthearted way, just show up for yourself. Like just act as if. I get that. And there is power in that. But it's not the solution. And I'm not impressed. And I'm not impressed with a lot of these self-help methods. And I've tried them, okay? I tried a lot of things. Um, because I've traveled that path. And the more energy, the more information, the more addition of things, of concepts, of ideas, of practices, to seek a wholeness, right, and connection, the more full and cluttered things became in me because I wasn't really simplifying and getting down to the core of what was actually there. So most solutions are superficial and external that we tend to go after because that's our first natural human instinct, because we are existing, living on a material plane where we have access to these external resources. But the problem is that a lot of these things keep us very stuck in our conscious mind. So a lot of the self-help approaches, even the affirmations and like those things, they keep us really battling up here. So unless we are able to go a little deeper and connect deeper, then they don't really have the shift, change, and transformation that's possible. And we're not going to be able to eliminate old pathways that don't work and lay down new ones that do in their place. And it really has to happen at a deeper level in order for it to be effective and for change to take place. And so you know me, and you know that what I'm going to say probably next is that the real transformation has to be a spiritual one, because that's the thing that's going to trump everything else. And that's from the inside out. That's from the center of our being emanating outwards. That's going to become bigger than these limiting beliefs or ideas that we're fighting. And so if we stay fighting on the same plane on which the problem exists, right, that in the conscious mind, in that field, it's just a minefield, you know? We don't have the upper hand there. We really need to appeal to something higher, I believe. So ultimately, that's like the short story. And so what do I mean by it's spiritual? Because confidence is not something outside of you that you obtain, that it's already here, that it's in your spirit already. It's who you are before, it's your knowing. So that's our state of being, how we were created, that perfect state of bliss before we came in and experienced the bright lights and the chaos, and maybe had some experiences where we felt cold or ignored, or somebody shut us down in some way, or led us to feel like we weren't worthy or whatever, well-meaning or just thoughtless or just totally oblivious, unaware, or maybe with intention to harm. Regardless of what it is, we have to empty the cup of those things before we can fill it with external information. And that the thing about this is that when we do fill our cup, it's not going to be with things on the outside. It's going to be an unblocking of our vessel. So we're removing of the things that are blocking us from accessing that true natural state, joy and confidence, and then allowing it to sort of refill, if you will, on its own, because that's our spirit's natural mechanism. It's to replenish itself. So once we're operating from this place, then we have a lot more energy and we're able to access our intuition and do the things simultaneously as we're doing that, to build the confidence and to take those really sometimes very small measurable steps, especially if we're dealing with a dysregulated nervous system, which a lot of us are, to reconditioning, helping us to know that we're safe, and beginning to integrate in a new awareness, a new understanding through new experiences, right? So if we don't have the confidence, I mean, honesty is really important with this, because you can't just show up and act as if. I've had this go bad for me before where my nervous system was not ready to tolerate or handle a certain level of success with something, or a certain level of being seen or witnessed. It did not feel safe to me. So in a situation like that, where that's not safe for you, you can't just go from 0 to 60. So as an example, we're going to talk about singing, okay? For me, I had a friend who's awesome. She's a beautiful, gorgeous singer-songwriter in Nashville. And she's like, let's go do karaoke. Oh, and then she got married and she was like, come sing at my wedding. People are getting up and performing. She's got all these singer friends. I'm like, hell no. She wanted me to get up and perform. And I'm like, oh no, like my nervous system would not be able to tolerate that, because I need to move slower. I need to first sing in front of my children, right? Then I need to sing in front of my husband. Then I need to sing with a vocal coach, or maybe I sing with the vocal coach before anybody else, and that's what feels safe. And then I slowly but surely take steps beyond that. And as I go, I readjust and my nervous system recalibrates one step at a time if that's something that feels extremely dysregulating or distressing for me. And that's just my personal real life true story example of that. And then feeling more and more comfortable. So then it becomes more innate to sing. And then slowly but surely, I can make my way and step onto a slightly bigger stage, if you will, every time. But, there is a process with that, and we have to really honor and respect ourselves with that and consider that and really check in with ourselves. And if something just doesn't feel okay, then we have to honor that. I was at a little party with my daughter, and they had like all these little girls doing this little cute little makeup thing. And then they were like, okay, now we're going to put on a little fashion show or a little whatever show and have a dance party in front of the parents. And my little youngest, sweet little empath daughter was like, I was watching her and she was like looking at me like, I don't know about this, mom. And I kind of didn't want to interfere and be like, oh, you don't have to do it, because I didn't want to suggest that she wasn't capable of it. So I was like, well, let me just see how this goes. But I was really feeling her. And it was kind of sad because I could see how uncomfortable she was with it. And I think she agreed with the woman to come out and not talk or say anything, just to walk out and kind of stand there and then go back. So she did that. But in the end, it was like they were supposed to come and do a little dance or something. And she just looked at me and she was like in deep suffering. And I was like, come here. I said, come here. And she came over to me and she sat in my lap. I said, you don't have to do it. And she was so relieved because she felt this pressure because all the other girls were doing it. And I was like, no, I said, you listen to your body. And if it doesn't feel comfortable or safe for you, that's okay. You do what feels right. And so she felt good about that. The same thing happened in the play. The first go around at school, she was like, no, I don't want a talking role. And so they gave her a role with no lines. And this second time around, she's built a little confidence, and her audition was a little bit more extroverted and out there. And she got a little bit more lively with it. And this time she was able to be excited about having a role with words, but it's still a very small part. And so that's just her process with it. You get the idea. But this is how we build confidence and how we build resilience and endurance, by showing up for ourselves and meeting ourselves honestly where we're at. Like, we don't want to throw ourselves to the wolves with something if it really feels like it's going to just totally annihilate us, but at the same time, we do want to push our edge and really move into trust, because if we're not in discomfort, then we're not in our growth zone. And we could stay comfortable for the rest of our lives, but then we're probably not going to have the growth that we're wanting. And then that's going to feel tough for us, because there's things that are put on our heart that we have this deep desire to accomplish and do. And that's very much in alignment with higher calling and purpose. And if we don't do those things, we're going to have regret. We're going to have regret. And, when people are on their deathbed, one of the main things that their biggest regrets before they die is that they wish they had had the courage to live the life that they really truly wanted at a core level, that they had been able to live in alignment with authenticity, with what they were wanting, not what other people wanted them to do, that they had taken those risks and that they had expressed themselves honestly. So I think, like, honesty, authenticity, they're high vibrational states, and they lead to, and courage, by the way, is the thing that bridges this gap. And a lot of people don't find that courage. But it's the thing that allows us to really step into our natural state, which is joy. And in that state, we have unlimited confidence because we believe in ourselves, we know our worth, and anything is possible. And when we know that, we begin to manifest that and create that in our life. And it's just a natural byproduct of being in that higher elevated state. So here's the other thing. And I talk about the subconscious here and there, because that's what I work with. And that's where you really get the job done. Your subconscious holds the key. Okay. So real confidence does not come from forcing positivity. Forced positivity or toxic positivity is a straight up bypass. Like that's a complete avoidance. We don't meet ourselves in that. That it's fake. That's the fake it till you make it idea. I'm all for showing up and even if you're afraid, like pushing your edge. I agree with it in that regard. But the shift happens beneath the surface in the subconscious. And then when we rewire there, everything changes. So confidence can be rewired at the deepest level, okay? It can literally be rewired when we meet ourselves in our true essence, which we can do in the subconscious, in hypnosis work. We can reconnect with this profoundly and quickly. I have never had a client not love who they met when they met themselves in this way. It is always moving, always beautiful. It's usually evokes some emotion because people are really moved and they're delighted with themselves. Sometimes there is work to do to move into forgiveness of self. But I truly, I've never met a client or worked with anybody in one of my confidence sessions where they just haven't been like so touched and moved by meeting themselves and really getting to experience their little inner child and see who that is and remember who that is, because we know that that person is very recognizable to us because that's our true nature. That's the truth of who we are. And that's why it evokes so much emotion, because of where we may have been cut off or disconnected from this part of ourself. So if you just even were to take a moment and consider that just as a small little reflective exercise, like consider who you actually are, not how you generally view yourself with the limitations that we bring to the table and self-judgment. But if all of a sudden you just pretend even to embody that childlike curiosity and joy and take a moment just to remember your true state, being fully confident, not having doubts, like who were you as a child? Who were you as a kid? And maybe you have to go back to being a baby. Who would you be? Like, who would you be? Like, just, I mean, have you ever met a baby? Like a newborn. Think of a newborn when they're just laying there peacefully sleeping. And they just embody this peace and serenity and purity and joy, and nothing's wrong. And they're cared for and they're kept and they're held and they're covered. They don't have a bunch of negative ideas going through their head about like who they are, how they're going to be perceived, anything like that. They're not even thinking about that. That stuff comes later. And in that joy, in that radiating light and that vibrancy and optimism and curiosity, what does that feel like? And who are you? What qualities do you embody? They're going to be totally unique to you. They're not going to be me. I know what mine were, right? Like yours are yours. What does that little kid want to do? And that's actually a really great question if you're not sure what direction to go, or like if you want to pursue a passion or a desire, you can really go back and reconnect with what your desires, interests, and loves were as a little child and see most likely they haven't changed. I know mine are all the same. It's actually really amazing. They've evolved. Like I wasn't like into hypnosis when I was 7, but I was definitely very contemplative and I had a lot of deeper questions. I love expressing and moving my body and sharing my joy with other people. So that hasn't changed. Like that's who I am at my core. And yes, for a period of time, that was blocked. I was blocked from that and I lost that connection. But losing that connection became too painful. So what I discovered actually was that I had to reconnect with that in order to reaccess joy. I had to reconnect with those avenues and outlets and my creativity. And actually what I discovered with this when I was deep in my parenting journey and I had let everything go and I was very much immersed in motherhood and giving all my attention and time, naturally, I started to feel like all of a sudden I was sort of like dead to myself. And I really recognized that I needed to bring back some sparks for myself, the things that really sparked joy in me. Like, did my kids spark joy? Yes, but there's so much that you have to give. And I needed something really for myself. And so I think I talked about this on another episode, but I started dancing again. And I started hoop dancing. Actually, that's when I discovered the hula hoop. And it just, it woke my ass up. It re-sparked my natural, the natural qualities in me. And my husband even noticed it one day and he was like, you're laughing so much more. I mean, there was just an immediate shift, it's very correlated. And when we're in that state, we're naturally living in more confidence. And if I hadn't done that, I don't actually know what would have happened. Like, because we can't really tolerate being cut off from ourselves, from the source of that divine nature and who we are. Like, that's actually what gives our body life as well. It makes a lot of sense to me, spiritually speaking. So how do you raise your elevation, right? How do you raise your frequency for limitless possibility? I offer a couple different things currently, specifically that target this. And one of them is an affirmation elevation masterclass. And it's really all about shifting your frequency, right? And elevating your energy. And so that's exciting. So please stay tuned for that. Go ahead and actually just sign up for it because you guys are going to love it. And then as far as an invitation to go a little deeper in one-to-one work, it's really beautiful. It's a great session to see if somebody's curious about hypnosis work. So just to recap, and key takeaways is that confidence, it is innate. It is remembered. It is not earned. It's not something you have to go out and get or buy. And then this idea that joy and confidence really elevate our frequency and unlock all the possibilities that are available for us that we can really step into. And then also, of course, when you align your thoughts and your inner dialogue, you are able to create a big, big, powerful shift for yourself. And then the final thought is choose the next thought or action that lifts you higher, that's different to what you've been doing. If it's not working, if you're just getting the same results, try something different, even if it's uncomfortable. Anywho, thank you all for listening. I encourage you to share any insights or epiphanies, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.